Constructing your life is about much more than just building a bank account. Each week, join real estate entrepreneur and mindset coach Austin Linney as he interviews guests who are constructing their dream lives and impacting the world around them on a daily basis. If you're an entrepreneur or wanting to start a business, or you just want to hear motivating stories of how others have overcome the odds, you are in the right place. And now for your host, Austin Linney.
Guys, in this episode, I have the pleasure, nay, the honor to interview Ben Newman. If you don't know who Ben Newman is, man, you're missing out. He's got an amazing podcast called The Burn. He's written a great books called Uncommon Leadership and How to Own Your Success. He is the head coach for the freaking Alabama. He's head coach for Kansas State football. He's one of the top speakers in the country. And he's created a no bullshit, no excuses mentality for his life to be the father, the business owner, the dad. And he just embodies such an amazing part of who you can be as a next level human and still crush in business and still be a father and still be a pillar in the community. And he has a outlook on life that, to be honest with you, is a kindred spirit. We had such a pleasure with this interview, and I'm just beyond honored to have him on. So I hope you enjoy it and learn a ton as I did. Thank y'all for listening. Guys, welcome back to Construct Your Life. This is Austin Linney here, and I have the fucking I'm so pumped up to have Mr. Ben Newman in the house. How are you doing, my man?
Austin, so great to be with you. I love the passion in that.
It's your fault. Good. You get me all fired up. I was listening to your podcast with Ed this morning. I was thinking about it this morning when we're going to interview you, and I've interviewed about 500 people, give or take, billionaires. I had the pleasure of MLB All-Stars. I'm really good friends with Sean Casey from the Reds. And there's a quality that y'all have separate from everything else that I truly believe is the thing that sets y'all apart, and that's humble learners. I think that you as far as you've gone in your career, you're always still learning, and you have a pen and pad, and you're always excited. Yeah. If
I could speak to that real quick, because I know you highlighted in the interview, and then you got all this excitement. You nailed it. Just because I'm a coach, just because I do this work, Austin, I still have 2 coaches, and I read books every single day. So I am so far from finished, and I haven't figured anything out yet. I'm just like everybody else in this fight, trying to figure out how we can be the best we can be.
It's the quality that even my fiance picked out when we were hanging with Sean. It's like, he's got a pad out and we're talking about NFTs, and he's over there like writing, and he's like, I just want to know everything. And, when we have a level of success, there's always another step. And this year I got a trainer who coaches with me too. And when I got him, like, he's kind of a savage, and I'm like, oh, I thought I was working out. No, and we're really working out. And I think that's how you progress, because ultimately what I've seen you do is you're not taking the success, or you're not taking the thing. You're fully engaged in the actions day in and day out. And I know that's changed my life. And could you speak to that, on how you can remove yourself from the trappings of success or anything and just get so granular in the day-to-day actions needed?
Yeah, well, Austin, it's the name of our podcast, The Burn. I believe that everybody has this burn or this underlying fire that lies inside of them. Some people clearly understand it. Some people haven't slowed down enough to understand what it is to then realize the power and influence it can have on their life and how they show up every day. Because I believe it's that burn that actually ignites your why and your purpose that then causes you to be consistent and disciplined in the action that it takes to win every single day. And just so everybody knows, my definition of consistency is a little different. It's every damn day. Consistency isn't, hey, I had 2 really good days in a row. Let me take some time off. Hey, I had 4 good days. Like, do what you say you're going to do, because your opportunity to win and be your best, it's a 1 day at a time opportunity. And so I think a lot of people don't connect to that burn. And so I encourage everybody, understand and identify what that burn is, because so many coaches that do what I do, they don't talk about the burn. They go right to why and purpose, which is so important. But if you don't understand what ignites that, it's going to be harder to drive that long-term discipline and consistency.
Can the burn change over time?
Oh, without question. Some people, it's a great follow-up question. Some people struggle. I don't know what my burn is. Like for me, my burn is easy. Okay. There's a lot of hardship that came from my burn, but my mother passing away 11 days before my 8th birthday, parents divorced when I was 6 months old, never knew them together, 24-hour nursing care in our house, my mother's last year living. All I want to do every single day is carry on my mother's legacy, be a great example to my children, be the best husband that I can be. And I screw those things up a lot, but I've tried the best that I can. To be the best coach that I can be, to be the best example that I can be for these people that we get to partner with every single day. And so for me, what I think about is that opportunity to be our best. And yes, we're going to mess it up from time to time, but that burn for me, it's never going to change. Continuing to write my mother's story. Other people, I'll give you an example. I was down in Orlando because a lot of people say, I don't know what my burn is. And oftentimes I'll say it's challenge or adversity that you've been through like me. Many people have been through worse or something similar. You know what yours is. Some people, there's somebody that sacrificed for them or somebody they're sacrificing for. And when they think about that, connects to the fire, ignites the why, they're off. Then there's the group of people who say, I don't have any idea. That doesn't mean you won't have high levels of success. That doesn't mean you can't be successful. I was working with a high-level advisor down in Orlando, and I'll never forget this. He said to me, he's like, you talk about this burn stuff. I get it. I understand the concept. I don't know what mine is. And I said, okay, well, what's something that's important to you right now? What's a goal? Let's just start with a short-term goal. And he said, we're building this house, and I want this to be my wife's dream house from literally the cabinets in the kitchen. I want it to be the wood with the handles that she wants. I want everything to be perfect. And I said, great. I said, I don't want to wish my adversity and challenge on anybody else so that they can have a burn like that. I hope they don't go through that. So I said, if this is your burn right now, fantastic. I want you to have because every day you can now wake up and say, I will do everything that I said I was going to do because it's going to make it easier for me to deliver this dream home to my wife and my kids. A year later, Austin, I'm back in Orlando. And he looks at me like this disheveled, puzzled look. He's like, I don't know, man. I don't know what's happened to my burn. It's gone. And I looked at him and I said, your house is beautiful. And he said, what? And I said, your house is beautiful. I saw the pictures on Facebook. I said, the house is beautiful, but that's your problem. The burn, you're already in the house. That's not your burn anymore. So I said, you now need to take a step back, slow down, and we have to identify something else. So I know that's a long answer, but I wanted to articulate it because I think it's important that, yes, the burn can change. He reset his. Some people it's the same. Some people it changes.
And the number one thing that concerns me when I coach people, and especially you just see it in social media, is a lot of people get to a level of success, but they do it with toxic energy. They do it with, F you energy, screw you energy. And that's great. And you use whatever you need to, but ultimately understanding that I don't think that energy can create longevity, right? My drug addiction, my homelessness, my losing 80 pounds, like all that shit and creating jobs. Like I want to do that no matter what. And so on the days I don't want to, because my fuel is truly 100%, my burn is for me. It's the ambition's so big. I never have a problem getting up for it if it's snowing, if it's not thing. And I think a lot of people, they may be having a certain level of success, but ultimately the fuel that got them there is not the fuel that's going to take them to the next part where they need to go. And you might be making 3 million, 4 million a year. But ultimately what I find out with most of my clients is they've made the money and they're still super unfulfilled.
So I think that's what I always call, and this is with our work with professional and collegiate athletes as well as business professionals. I call that you have to have an own it mentality or a never finished mindset, right? It's those mentalities where whatever's in front of me, I'm going to own it. I'm not going to be content. Hey, I've arrived. And look, I say this very humbly, to have worked with Nick Saban, the greatest college football coach of all time, 2 national championships with their team. Now, I never put any pads on, but it's been a blessing to be part of the organization the last 5 years. So does that mean that I'm content? Does that mean I go to you, Austin? It's like, hey, I've learned it all now, so let me just go coach people. I don't have to grow anymore. No, I told you, I have 2 coaches. I've been able to help organizations cross over $1 billion for the first time in revenue. I've helped organizations go from even smaller organizations. I never thought we could get to $1 million of revenue. And then they get there, right? So you run the gamut with it. But every time, whether it's hitting 1 million for the first time, getting to 1 billion for the first time, winning a national championship or a Super Bowl, I always encourage people, just don't be finished. Mm-hmm. Just don't be finished. You're young, you're energetic, you're vibrant. There'll be a day where maybe you say, I'm retired, I'm done, I'm not doing this anymore. That's fine. I have no idea what that's going to be for me because God's still giving me a lot of energy every day. But for me, just because I've had victories or success, or we've had clients who have had victories or success, or you listening, you've had victories or success. So you're done? Mm-hmm. So all of a sudden you're done? Mm-hmm. I mean, look at some of the wealthiest, most successful people in the world. Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett could have been freaking done 30 years ago, 40 years ago. Mm-hmm. But there's something in Warren Buffett. He's never finished. Don't you agree, Austin?
100%. I literally, I tried the beach thing for a day and I lasted about 12 hours. It's not, okay, perfect example. Literally happened last night. I got to tell this girl that I used to coach who's been helping me that we are going to create a company that she is going to own and run. She's no longer an employee. I could have cried. Giving her that opportunity. And I want to give that to as many people as possible within our ecosystem to see that I could support her family and she's creating generational income. There is nothing better in my life. And if I can do that over and over and over again, why would I ever run away from that? Because what happened to me is in the last 9 months, my business has exploded. I made a little more money than I used to. And you know what changed about me? Not a goddamn thing. Not a damn thing. I'm still the same person. I still have the same drive. And that's when I had a realization that the money's not going to change me. And I'm just going to keep out there and keep digging in that consistency, because for me, that's what has changed my life. And if I had to guess with your clients too, but with all my clients, if I could take 90% of them, they don't have consistency. It's what they're seeking. And so how do you even start to begin somebody to shift the narrative to focus on consistency and get in the rhythm, like what I call habit stacking, small wins?
And I talk about that all the time. I call it stacking days. And I knew there was a lot of synergy between you and I when we were, connected together. I knew we were going to get along great. But yeah, I call it stacking days. It's the same thing. People try to hold on too tightly to the result that they can't control, rather than recognizing that the stacking of great behaviors and disciplines day after day after day actually manufactures all the future results that you want. You can't just say, here's what I want in the future. You have to see it. You have to understand where you want to go, but then you got to pull it right down. You got to put it in front of your face and say, I'm willing to do the work and to stack the days to manufacture that result. And once people understand you can't control the result, doesn't mean that you don't have a vision of where you want to go. Have goals, have a vision. But if you're unwilling to do the work, you're never going to achieve the success.
I love it. And one of the things that game changer, because I've literally spent the last 2 months only learning leadership as we build up this huge company. Your difference between questions versus statements. I love this. Can you explain that to the listeners?
Yeah. So years ago, I did some research on Max Weber, but spelled Weber, W-E-B-E-R. A lot of people don't even know who he is. One of the fathers of sociology. And he talked about the difference of power versus authority. Power is when you force or coerce somebody to do your will. Authority is when you inspire or empower somebody to choose what you know they should choose, right? The behavior to drive that success. And so after studying that, I realized okay, I've been in locker rooms. I've worked with coaches that try to force it. You do this or it's not going to work out, right? Or you've seen leaders think, well, if I just shove it down their throat and tell them what to do, they'll be successful. That works for a very small number of people, especially in the world today. Yet when you empower and inspire somebody to choose the behavior, once they choose it, they're more likely to take ownership of it and to be consistent with it. So I just developed a strategy from that research to say questions over statements. My natural tendency actually is to say, Austin, if you don't do this, and this, it's not going to work. Mm-hmm. As opposed to, rather than making a statement, I could say, hey, Austin, what if your very best days look like? If you were to isolate your best week, your best month, in alignment with these big goals you have, what did it look like? And then you could answer. Well, I do this, and this. Well, Austin, how would you say over the last 30 days, you've been on a scale of 1 to 10, following through and doing those things? And if you say I'm a 6, I can then respond with another question. Why are you a 6 right now? Well, this, and this has been, right? So it's a series of questions that gets us back to, hey, Austin, what happens if you get back to a 10? And I'll do whatever I can to support you in getting to that 10. But what happens when you get back to a 10? And then you say, my pipeline gets bigger. My calendar gets full. I get back to enjoying the business rather than having stress because I'm not working hard enough. All right, sounds good to me. Go attack it. Mm-hmm. And that is a longer conversation, right? There might be 6, 7, 8 questions. I would rather ask those 8 questions over a 5-minute conversation than to point my finger in somebody's face, even if I'm sharing the gospel, have them walk out pissed off and choose to not do it because they're angry that I didn't really lead them in a more constructive way. We all know what we need to do, but it's choosing the behavior. And I think leaders understand when you ask questions, it empowers your people. They take ownership. They're more likely to drive that consistent behavior.
I love that. And so one of the things that I think has really helped me out, and there's a couple different viewpoints on this kind of scenario, because you coach, Alabama football, you have business people that you coach, you're a dad. One of the theories we call it is, same driver, different car, right? I've got clients who are in New York and New Jersey. And when I roll into town, I might dress a little better and talk a little sharper and get a little more aggressive. And then I, coach women and I coach people in the health insurance space, the crypto space. When you're walking into an environment and you're taking a speech, right? Are you taking account to read the room and kind of, is your message always the same? What I'm asking, or do you read the room and dial it down? If it's like a different crowd, like obviously the football players want to hear something, like, how do you take that when you look at?
So to me, every individual's different. Every organization's different. Doesn't mean there aren't principles or stories that I share that won't be impactful for all organizations, right? My mother's story of the burn, sure, that's a story that I could share with every organization that I'm with. But at the end of the day, I can't ask every individual connect to my burn and my mother's story. It's used as a source of example for them to connect to their burn. Yet to me, everybody's different. So for instance, I've been blessed to work with some of the best running backs in college football over the last 10 years. I'll give you a couple examples. Najee Harris at Alabama, right? Amazing what Najee Harris accomplished. Now he's doing great things with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I also work for Kansas State football. I've worked with their head coach for 8 years. We currently have a running back, Deuce Vaughn. Deuce Vaughn is the number 1 rated running back in all of college football coming back. He had an amazing year last year. Those 2 players are equally unfreaking believable, Austin, but they're completely different young men. They think differently. They show up differently. They're driven differently. So the messaging or conversation I would have with those 2 men, completely different. Are they both running backs? Yes, but their motivations are different. Their strengths are different. Their weaknesses are different. So with each individual in your organizations, I think you have to sit down and have a conversation and say, okay, what does that person's best day look like? Help them uncover that and then support them in attacking it every single day. Make the weaknesses stronger, but attack those strengths so that they can be the best that they can be. We call that a prize fighter day, but everybody's going to be different. So an organization's going to be different. Every individual's different. Yes, there might be similarities in conversations, similarities in roles, but to me, everybody's different. You got to hit people in their heart. You got to understand how they think before they commit to the attack.
In my opinion, this reverts right back to being a humble learner. Like the number one issue that I see with coaching groups or bigger things or people that are helping companies is they're just shoving them through what I call the wood chipper. Like everybody, what I found has a different motivation. Like you really have to invite them in and get clarity on their vision. And once you have clarity, then boom, you're off to the races as a team because that COO or that marketing director might have a different, as you say, different burn. And I think that's what not enough people are doing is they're not connecting to them, being a servant leader per se.
I had another he actually runs a coaching business, runs a construction business. called and reached out yesterday. And this is an individual who's come to our boot camps in St. Louis that we throw for speakers and coaches. People want, because I want to take people behind the scenes. Like, I'm only one person. We got a team of coaches, but I want to help people understand these strategies that I've learned from great leaders that work. Because to your point, there's people who aren't doing it the right way, right? And so I want to help people. If you want to be a coach, let's do it the right way. Don't speed ahead. Don't cheat the system. You can't buy your way to success. You got to put in the hard work. You got to do the research, and you got to commit to helping other people grow. Otherwise, you're just selling a bunch of bullshit, right? You're not even coaching people. So this guy called me and he's like, man, he says, like, how do you deal with like this transfer culture and these people leaving and that people leaving and the transfer portal in college, or, people who recruit this person from that company? I said, look, it's important that you develop a culture and an environment that drives success in your company. But I said, you have to understand every individual and welcome them into that culture. But it starts with understanding how they're wired first. If that person isn't wired to be successful in your culture, you shouldn't be recruiting them. I don't care what their statistics are. Yet, if you find that by understanding that person, their burn, their motivation, their passion, they'd be a great fit, then guess what? That's a recipe for success. I can recruit that person. We've got similar ideologies. We've got similar mindsets. I connect to the burn. He understands adversity. She understands adversity. They can come into our environment and we can be successful. But if you don't understand them first, you can go recruit everybody that you want. But guess what? They're going to come to your team and hit the transfer portal again because they were never a good fit.
Nobody that's ever came and worked for me has asked me what they're getting paid. They're saying, hey, man, we see the mission. We know the thing. Let's go do good work together. And I think I would feel the same thing that everybody that came to work for you or is in your boot camps or anything would probably feel the exact same way. Before we talk about your event you have in August, I want to ask you a simple question. You've had an amazing life that's just getting started. You coach some of the best people in the country, football teams. You live a great life. You travel. As you look back in this journey when it started for you, what advice would you give to your 18-year-old self?
To my 18-year-old self, I probably, and this may surprise some people, probably to be even more courageous, because of what I've been through. I definitely have a tendency where people would probably think, wow, he thinks big. Wow, he's courageous. Wow, he does this. But I would probably be courageous and maybe exercise a little more patience. Now, those are also strengths of mine because I am courageous, and the fact that sometimes I am impatient, drives success. But sometimes I think just the commitment to the hard work, I think I understand that way better today. I've always worked hard, but I understand the importance of the commitment of hard work today manufactures the future way better than I did when I was 18 years old.
And, for anybody out there, it's the number one question. We can use the word balance, but that's not even the right word. You travel, you work extensively. For anybody out there that's running a company and they're just trying to, they feel like they can't breathe, right? They're building the company. You have 9 roles. How do you stay so present as a father and as a husband? How do you put, everybody needs to put a priority on you, but how do you juggle everything? I know you've been asked the question a ton, but I'm just curious.
Yeah. So, intentionality is incredibly important. And I'm going to hit this direct. Look, I've shared with you guys my heart. I've been through a lot in my life. I know I'm not the only one listening that has a story. Each and every one of us has a story, challenge, adversity that we've been through. Because I shared my heart, my pain, you're going to get me real. It's just the way that I am. If you are telling yourself that balance does not exist, you are never going to have balance in your life. If you are telling yourself, well, because I'm busy over here, I can't be a good father right now. I can't be a good mother right now. You won't be. And so I'm just a big believer that what comes out of your mouth goes into your ears, and that's what drives and creates your belief system and the action that you take. So if you believe that you can't have balance, you won't. Yet what I believe is I will sacrifice some of my time. I will set, whether it's sleep, whether it's not watching 3 hours of Netflix, like some of you are probably doing. Doesn't mean I don't like Netflix. I love Netflix, but I don't need to watch 3 hours. I could watch 30 minutes or an hour. So I think for so many people, you have to understand choose to have balance. So I choose to be a great father. At least I try to be the best father that I can be. But what does that look like? I wake up really early so that by 6 o'clock in the morning, 6:15, I go wake the kids. I travel a lot to speak and things of that nature and be on sidelines for games. But when I'm home, I wake up, I go wake the kids. I help them make breakfast. I take them to school every single day because I enjoy it. I want them to remember, even though my father was busy, he always took me to school when he was in town. I want them to know that I go to their practices. My wife and I had a date night last night. We took our daughter to basketball practice. Now we sat there, we talked about business stuff, we talked about life stuff, and it was kind of fun, right? We love supporting our kids, but our kids have become part of our life. Yes, we have our regular date nights or date lunches and things that we'll like to do, but we are intentional so that you have balance. I choose to work out. I don't choose to make an excuse. Well, I'm working on a really busy initiative right now, Austin, so just workouts, I can't do them right now. Bullshit. And so you have to remember, if you are allowing that type of bullshit to determine the action that you take, that's the same bullshit that you're going to lead with. So you can't expect your people to be the best that they can be when you have an example of, I'm just going to work really hard, but you don't work out, you eat terrible, you're out of shape, you can't breathe when you walk down the hallway, you're not spending time with your family. What kind of an example is that? And so I encourage people, I think you're actually better when you slow down and design your life that incorporates everything. So balance, I think is kind of a different term. Balance isn't, I spend the exact same amount of time doing everything. No, balance to me is that you have time and energy that's going to the most important areas of your life. So you can have balance. Balance is something that does not exist. The coaches, the speakers, the leaders who tell you balance doesn't exist, it's a cop-out because they are unbalanced and they're not paying attention to the important things in their life. The more I pay attention to the important things, the more my business grows.
I love it. Knowing that I was going to interview you today, I worked out a little harder today. See, that's the effect that you have. You didn't even know that. So, but before we get you out of here, I know, how would people find the podcast and you, and then plug the event that you have going on in August as well?
So our podcast is The Burn. On social media, it's at Continued Fight. We're probably most active on Instagram and Twitter. Once again, at Continued Fight. And then we are so excited. August 2nd through the 6th, so it's the first week of college football training camps. We are doing a virtual and free mental toughness forum. So there's 30 plus speakers. Every day you'll receive an email with an 8 to 10 minute message from 7 of our speakers. And I'm talking about, we got Tom Izzo, the head coach of Michigan State basketball, Andy Frisella, Ed Milet, Dana Duckworth, the NCAA champion coach. We got Shantae Lowe, the world champion. We've got Ray Lewis. I mean, it's a star-studded lineup of speakers to speak on mental toughness, to help you lock in on making this your best year ever and having the last quarter be the best last quarter you ever could have imagined in your life. mentaltoughnessforum.com. Everybody can sign up for free. And please share this. We're anticipating we'll have over 100,000 people for this virtual event. So feel free to share it with as many people as you want. Post it on your social media. The more, the better, because the world needs it right now.
Amen. Ben, I can't thank you so much, man. Appreciate it. Guys, if you got some value from this episode, send it to a friend, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to Construct Your Life with Austin Linney. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and pay it forward by sharing with a friend. Most importantly, take this opportunity to start constructing your life by taking immediate action on what you learned. For show notes, resources, and more information on one-on-one coaching with Austin, visit constructyourlifepodcast.com.